In yesterday's video, I talked about receiving an email from Vinted and how I expected that I would then have to submit a self-assessment because of the fact that Vinted, eBay and those platforms were sharing that information with HMRC. I read the comments from people and I took on some of the feedback that was shared with me, and so I have decided to take that video down. And I just wanted to address it here. I just wanted to be clear as to exactly what my rationale was with that. Now, what was explained to me in the comments from people, I guess with other experience on this, is that from the comms from Vinted is asking me as a seller to confirm my status with them, which then they will pass through to HMRC. And at that point, there isn't an expectation to complete a self-assessment. The only way that that would happen is that if you received comms from HMRC yourself to state that they want you to complete a self-assessment. So again, I read from people that were stating that they use Vinted to sell second-hand items. And again, a self-assessment is it's ultimately when you're making gains, right? Or when you're making profit out of selling things. In my mindset, I'm like, how do they know whether you're making gains or not? But I completely take the feedback on board that people are stating, although those platforms do have to comply as of 2024 with submitting your information, so eBay, Airbnb, etc., Vinted, there is no expectation that you have to do that self-assessment unless requested to do so. So with that in mind, I kind of thought about the video itself and I thought, well, in my situation, right, and where this all came from for me is that I've exited the UK. I am removing myself from the UK tax system. I've completed the P85. I've received quite a large volume of cash from those platforms, as I've posted in other videos, over £38,000 from sales between Vinted, eBay and selling the record collection, etc., to a private business and then also a private seller. And so the advice that I'd received was, we'll capture that in your self-assessment document at the end of the year, stating that you're leaving the country. Now, when it comes down to these platforms reporting you, I also read from another viewer that was saying, well, am I going to have to do a self-assessment? And again, then looking at the feedback that was on the comments from yesterday's video, there probably won't be any expectation for you to do that self-assessment. So with reflection on all of that, the last thing that I want to do on this channel is create any panic for people that are in the UK that are selling used items, that are clearing out bits and bobs from around their house, and of course aren't making any profit on selling any of those items. So with that in mind, I thought, well, let's not put that video out to any further people. I don't want to create any panic with anybody. That's not my objective of this channel. Ultimately, I started this to document what it was like to start a year from the position that I was in, which was redundancy and everything else that was going on, but to get to a point of leaving the country, moving out of the UK, becoming a nomad and traveling around and what that entails. And in doing that, I'm trying to document this and I'm trying to be as transparent on everything that I've done so far. And I won't get everything right. So in this occasion, stuck in my throat. So in this occasion, if I feel that I'm not getting that right, I've taken the comments on board, taken the video down, and I'm sharing this just to acknowledge, yep, okay, I take the feedback on board, and I've removed that video, and I'm then acknowledging it here to say, yeah, I take the feedback, and the last thing I want to do is freak anybody out. So that video is removed, it's hidden, and as it stands right now, if you're just in the UK and you're selling some of your own items, there shouldn't be an expectation. Are HMRC aware that you're selling on those platforms? Yes, that point still lands. They are aware. You're submitting that information to Vinted, to eBay, and as others pointed out in the comments, they've been selling on eBay and then recently received comms from them to say, we want to know more of your information, they want ID, etc., because they're passing that information through to the HMRC. I call it the HMRC. To give you an example, when I went monetized here on the YouTube platform, the very first thing they asked me was my national insurance number and my details, again, to track those payments because I'm making money now. I know that's different from selling, but just the fact that these platforms are asking for this information, it will be used to pass on to the relevant departments. So I hope that's answered all of that. Again, I appreciate, I don't always get everything right, but I'm big enough to just come on and say, if that information isn't right, then I've taken it down and I've made this just to respond to it. And I hope that answers as to why I've removed that video. And in the meantime, I hope you have a great day. If there's any comments or questions on this, I'm happy to take that feedback also in the comments of this video. Thanks so much for watching. All the best.